All right, so who all enjoys learning something about your Thanksgiving traditions? Anyone? A little bit? Okay, good. All right, so tonight we're going to talk about thanking God in our unmet expectations. And, whenever you're getting ready for a talk like this, at least for me, I start thinking about how all of the different ways that I feel like I can relate, that I expected something to happen, didn't quite happen. I think for me, it probably starts junior high, whenever you're doodling on that piece of paper, and then there's that super dreamy hot boy at school that you're like, oh, I know that if only he would ask me out, like, it's amazing, right? Anyone ever do that? You start like practicing their name, Mrs. Whoever. No, just me. Okay. It's fine. I would tell you who that Mrs. whomever was, but I'm pretty sure they still live in the area, and that might be awkward. It made me start thinking about a song whenever I was growing up and in high school back in the early 90s. I'm that old. And it was by Garth Brooks, and it was called Unanswered Prayers. So some of y'all are like, oh yeah, I used to listen to that back on the cassette tape. You rewind. Those of y'all here younger will explain it later. You had to wait for it to get on the radio just the right time so you knew when to hit record. Back, y'all remember that? You got to hit like play and record at the same time. The stuff that we used to do, man. Okay, so for those of you who are sitting there having no idea what I'm talking about, basically the song, it's a country song by Garth Brooks, and the song, thank you, there's a man back there. There's one, me and Tracy. Basically talks about Garth and his wife they're at an old high school football game, and they're run into what he calls an old flame, someone they used to have a crush on, and he just knows that at some point, if God would have just answered that prayer and brought them together, that life would have been amazing. And then when he runs into her, again, as an adult, after he's been married and she's been married, he realizes there's a reason why God did not answer that prayer. So, to help encourage the women at your table, I want you to look at the woman sitting next to you, and I want you to say, sometimes I thank God for unanswered prayers. Good job. Okay, so now I want you to look at the other woman who was your second choice. Let's not go into why. And I want you to tell her, remember, when you're talking to the man upstairs, just because he doesn't answer doesn't mean he doesn't care. Okay, good job. So, as Garth Brooks likes to wrap up his song to say, is that some of God's greatest gifts truly are unanswered prayers. And I know for each of you, we probably all have walked into this room tonight with something on our heart, something on our mind that we've been praying about, something that we just expected whenever we got to a certain season in our life that it would have looked different. Maybe it's when I got to a certain age, I would be married, but I'm not. Or I would have kids, but I don't. Or I would have a job or a home, or I would have an idea of what do I have a calling, and if so, what is it? Like, there's just always stuff that we're walking through that we're praying about. We're trying to seek God. We're trying to figure out, what do you want us to do? Why aren't you answering it? And it's just crickets, right? It's just silence. And so I want you to know that even in this moment of crickets, of where you're praying and you just don't understand why God hasn't answered this prayer. God, I have cancer. My friend has cancer. My mom, my husband, someone I know, they're sick. Why would you not answer this prayer and heal them or somehow, provide for the thing that they need? And I want you to look at 1 Thessalonians 5:18. And it says this. It says, in every situation, it doesn't put parameters on just the situations we like. Every situation, be thankful and continually give thanks to God, for this is the will of God for you in Christ Jesus. So I want to encourage you that right now, in this unanswered, unmet expectation season that you're looking at, wherever it is that you just are struggling and you don't understand why God hasn't answered or why he's not moving or why he's not showing up in this circumstance or in this situation. And I want you to think about all of the places where God has shown up, where he is moving. And even though you may not see it today, go ahead and thank him for this situation, for this unanswered prayer. Because that's the idea. It's the idea that no matter what you're in, God's there with you in it. Sometimes you may not feel it, you may not see it, you may not think that he is, but his word has promised that he is. And so that's what we're going to look at mainly for tonight. We're going to look at Joshua 1, and we're going to focus on verses 1 through 9. And in Joshua 1, we kind of pick up where we left off a little bit in October, where the Israelites have been in the wilderness. They've escaped slavery. They're in this wilderness place, and they have been stuck in this wilderness season for 40 years. 40 years just stuck in this place. And God comes to Joshua to let him know, as if Joshua was unaware, that Moses has died. And that it's time finally for them to cross the Jordan River and go into the promised land. And so that's where we're going to pick up the story. So it says, "Now it happened after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, that the Lord spoke to Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' servant, saying, 'Moses, my servant, is dead. Now, therefore, arise, cross over this Jordan, you and all the people, into the land which I am giving to them, to the sons of Israel. I have given you every place on which the sole of your foot treads, just as I promised to Moses. From the wilderness and this Lebanon, even as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, all of the land of the Hittites, and as far as the great sea, toward the west shall be your territory. No man will stand before you as long as you live. Just as I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not fail you or abandon you. Be strong and confident and courageous, for you will give this people an inheritance, the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. Only be strong and very courageous. Be careful to do in accordance with the entire law which Moses, my servant, commanded you. Do not turn from it to the left or to the right, so that you may prosper and be successful wherever you go. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall read and meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything in accordance to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will be successful. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified or dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." Okay, that's a verse and a passage probably a lot of you, if you've grown up in the church, you're familiar with. And whenever I was getting ready for this message, there were lots of things about this particular passage that really just struck me, and I never really noticed before. So if you go back and you look at Joshua 1:2, one of the things that I thought was really interesting is God starts his discussion with Joshua by simply saying, "Moses, my servant, is dead." Well, Joshua is Moses' right-hand man. If anyone knows that Moses has died, it's Joshua. It's not like they were, just Facebook friends, or I kind of follow him on Instagram, but we're not super close. No, I mean, they hung out all the time. They lived together, they served together, they worked together. Joshua was well aware that Moses was dead. So why would God tell him that? I can just imagine it's kind of like whenever you're kids and you're the parent and you look at your kids and you tell them something that they already know and they kind of look at you like, "Mom, no kidding, Mom. Yeah, no, I'm aware. I got that." I can just imagine. But it occurred to me that maybe one of the reasons why why Joshua is being told this by God is that God is basically telling Joseph, it's time. Moses is dead. This season is done. Whatever those dead things are that you have brought along with you in the wilderness, they need to stay dead in the wilderness. It's time for me to call you all the people to walk into a new season. It's a new time. It's a new start. We're doing something new. Whenever you cross the Jordan River and you go into the promised land, this is a new place, and we are not bringing dead things with us. So maybe for you, it goes back to that conversation we had in September where we talked about, the lies that we believe about ourselves, and who told you that? Well, if you've been battling that and struggling with that, and maybe it's time for you to leave that alone. Like, those things that you thought about yourself, that they're lies. They're dead. Let them die in this wilderness, and let's start something new. Let's go into a new season. Let's go into a new time, into a new calling. And I love that over and over in this process, because God knows it's not easy. Even though it's dead, you've kind of gotten used to dragging it along with you. You're like, come on. Maybe it's how you relate to people. Maybe it's something about you and your husband where you struggled, or maybe it's just a belief about who God is, that God doesn't see you or he doesn't love you. And God is saying that belief, that thing that you have brought with you, that baggage that we talked about in October, it's dead. It's time. We're doing something new. You're not bringing it with you into the promised land. And if you're ready to go into the promised land, then that dead stuff, it stays here. It stays on this side of the Jordan River. So I want to encourage you that if that is something that you're struggling with, if that is something that you've been battling with, let it go. It's time. Leave that dead stuff behind. And I love that when God is having this conversation, he tells him something in verse 3. So he says, Moses is dead. We're leaving this dead stuff behind. And the very first thing that he tells him after that first promise in verse 3 is that he says, I have already, it's past tense, given you every place you're going to put your foot. You're leaving this dead stuff behind, this dead belief behind, the things that you are struggling with, that you have been battling and wrestling in the wilderness. And I'm telling you, whenever you cross this Jordan River, you don't have to worry about what's about to happen, because I've already given it to you. All I need you to do is come get it. It's yours. The promises are already yours. You just have to come and get it. And I love this, because God knows that in every season of life that you face, even as you step into something new, there's always going to be, because it's new, it's always going to be hard, and there's always going to be a bit of a struggle. And so God promises in verse 5, he says, I will be with you. I will not fail you. I will not forsake you. And I love that, because God, in just those 9 verses that we read, he doesn't just tell Joshua one time. In 9 verses, he says it 4 times. 4 times. I will be with you. You can trust me. You can count on me. I will not leave you. I will not forsake you. I am going with you. And he says this 4 times. And maybe if you have been in this wilderness season like I have been for a while, maybe you feel very much alone. Maybe you just think, maybe God's forgotten about me. I've been here for a while. I've been praying about stuff, and I'm not getting the answers that I thought I would have had by now. And so God is telling you, I'm in it with you. I'm in the season with you. I promise you that. And I love that he tells him this 4 times. And one of the things that occurred to me is that, why is God saying this? Why is he telling him this? Because I think God wants Joshua to know that whenever you step foot into this new season, whenever you cross that Jordan River into this new place, it's going to look and feel very differently than your entire experience in the wilderness. He's been there for 40 years. For lots and lots and lots of them, that's the only thing they have ever known. They know that God leads them by a pillar of fire or a pillar of cloud. They know that God provides manna every single day. Like, there are things about God that they know, they have come accustomed to. They know that he's in this tabernacle place, and that they know how to expect God, how to experience God, how to hear from God, how to talk to God. Like, they have gotten used to this. And I think because the manna ends when they cross the Jordan River, I think God is telling Joshua, it's not going to look the way you've grown accustomed. I'm still here, but it's going to feel different. The manna is not going to be there, but that doesn't mean I'm not there. You're not going to see the pillar of fire, but that doesn't mean that I've left. You're not going to see the things and you're not going to feel the same things that you have grown accustomed to because it's different. Because I have done all of the work that I intended to do in this wilderness place when it was just really you and me. But now that you're ready to step out and you're ready to step forward into a promised land flowing with milk and honey, you're ready. You're ready for it to look differently. And I think he's telling them, be bold, be courageous. I'm going to be with you because God knows that when things are different or they feel different or they look different, like we kind of panic, right? Like, well, where is God? I mean, he was there. I mean, back on the other side of the river, I knew he was there, but now I don't see him. And so I don't know that he's here. Is he here? Are you here? But God is saying 4 times, I promise you, I'm not leaving. I'm not. I'm in it. I'm in this with you. As long as you are here, I am here. I promise. I will not leave. I will not forsake. You can count on me. And I love that promise. It's something that I think that we all know. And then as you keep reading, you hear over and over, he says this. He says, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And I love that. I love that he says that 3 times. He tells them over and over and over again, be strong. You got this. Be courageous. You can do this because I am with you. And as I was looking at this verse, and it's Joshua 1:9, and I was looking at this, and there's just something that struck me, and I dug a little bit. And it says, so in the verse it says, do not be dismayed. And what's so cool is if you look at the word dismayed, it says you're fearful or worried about something that is sudden and unexpected. Essentially, it's an emotion that you feel when your expectations are not met. Do you get that? Don't be dismayed. Don't worry when you expect something to happen and it doesn't. God is seriously saying, don't worry, don't be afraid, because not all of your expectations are going to be met whenever you cross over into the promised land. And as you start digging and you start looking it up, what's interesting is if you look at what the opposite, what the antonym of dismay is, and the antonym of dismay says that it's gladness, joyful, contentment, gratification. Do you like that? God is literally saying, do not be afraid, be bold, be courageous, have gratitude or thankfulness in your unmet situation or expectations. He's telling him to be thankful. And when I was looking at this and I was studying this and I was thinking about it and I was praying about it, and I'm like, there's a lot of good stuff here, God. But then what occurred to me is not so much what God says to Joshua, but when he says it. When God comes to Joshua and tells him this, remember, they're about to step into the promised land. It's not like Joshua's about to go into slavery. It's not like he knows something bad is coming. They have talked and planned and prayed and begged and pleaded to enter into the promised land since their families and their parents left slavery and were enslaved for 400 years. They're about to step foot into the promised land, and God 4 times says, I will be with you. Do not be afraid. Be courageous. Why does he feel the need to tell them that? If I'm about to walk into the promised land, if someone says, hey, Beth, tomorrow you get to win the lotto and you're gonna be a multimillionaire, but hey, don't be afraid. Be bold, be courageous. God's with you. And you're like, what? Why, of all days, would I be afraid? I would be so excited. Like, it's about to get amazing, right? We're about to go into the promised land. We have talked about this place. We have prayed about it. Oh, my goodness. We are on, y'all. Like, let's have a party. How amazing is this? Why are you telling me not to be afraid? It occurs to me That maybe the reason why God says this, and maybe the reason why God is focusing so much time and so much energy on telling Joshua, I'm with you, don't be afraid. I'm with you, don't be afraid. I'm with you, don't be afraid, is that even in the promised land, life is not perfect. Even in the promised land, life is not perfect. I don't know about you, but I know for us, I have found myself kind of wrestling with the expectation that our life is going to get better. Like, Christian's in the hospital, but once he comes home, then life will be easier. Well, he's still kind of struggling. Well, but once he's well, then life will get easier. Or once we have our income figured out and I have a job, then life will be easy. Then I'll be in a good mood, then I won't be stressed, then I won't worry. Or maybe it's once I have kids, or once I get married, or once I have a family, or once I find a home. Like, we all pick your thing, whatever that expectation is. Like, when that thing happens, then I will be such a pleasant person to be around, right? I mean, you'll be like, what? Did you get a makeover, a facelift? No, I'm just finally happy. I mean, it took 400 years, but today's that day. But the problem is that that's not reality. Because on this side of heaven, nothing is perfect. On this side of heaven, you're going to have unmet expectations. You're going to pray about it. You're going to think, this is a good thing, God. Why wouldn't you answer it? And he's still not going to answer it. And it's not going to make sense. And you're going to wrestle with it. And you're going to think, God, if you're a good God, good, why wouldn't you do this? And God says, the thing I need you to know is not why I'm not answering it. The thing I need you to know is that I'm in it with you. Whatever thing that you're struggling with, whatever expectations that you have, whatever it is that you expected one thing and suddenly something else happens and you just find yourself kind of lost and bewildered and baffled. Well, I'm God, and that didn't surprise me. I knew that was coming. In fact, there's nothing that's going to happen on this side of the Jordan River or as you go into the promised land that I'm not already fully aware of. And you know what? You don't have to be afraid. Because I've already given you what you haven't even begun to possess. It's already yours. I'm with you. Trust me. You don't have to be afraid. And so I love that. I love that even though I find myself struggling and even though I start to wonder, God, where are you and why aren't you answering these prayers? And it occurred to me as I'm getting ready for this that while I tend to catch myself in this loop of when this happens, then I'll be happy, then I won't worry, then I'll have peace, then I'll trust. And God is saying, it's not when, then. It's now. You have to learn to thank me now, to be thankful now, to trust me now, to know that I am with you now. So that's really tonight the thing that I want to encourage you about is I want to encourage you that whatever thing that you are wrestling with, whatever expectations you've had, whatever current circumstance or situations that aren't being met, and you have been praying and you're wondering, God, where are you in this? Claim what he tells Joshua, claim that promise that he sees you right now in the muck and the mire of whatever thing that you're wrestling with, and that he is with you in it. And as the situation changes and as you step foot into whatever's next, whatever the thing is around the bend that you can't quite see but you have in your mind is better than where it is here, he's with you there too. But even there is not perfect. So be bold there. Be courageous there. No, it's not going to be perfect there. But while you're here, don't be afraid. God's still with you. He sees you. He hears you. He loves you, and he wants to provide for you here. And just like the Israelites probably idealized the promised land, start looking and be mindful of how you have probably idealized yours. because there is no perfect this side of heaven. So we're about to transition into our small group time, and I just want to encourage you to do what God asked Joshua to do, to not be afraid, to not be dismayed, to walk forward boldly and courageously, knowing that God is never going to leave you. He is never going to forsake you. And start thanking God now for each of those unanswered prayers. Because I promise, just because he hasn't answered doesn't mean he doesn't care. Okay. Go to your small groups, start working on some questions, and we'll wrap up in a little bit.